Since the beginning of this year, coding tools have gotten better and better. With each new model release, the agentic coding process has felt more and more magical. It's really as easy as describing a feature, submitting that to your agent, watching it code, and then testing what it puts back out. But if that's gotten so much easier, then why are so many of us struggling with pushing forward with agentic coding flows? I think the big problem is the coding part's so easy, the product decision part is getting more and more difficult. We can't keep up with the agents anymore. Most AI coding tools haven't even focused on this problem set yet. They're still focused on writing better code. Generation got cheap, deciding didn't. I'm Ryan, a product and engineering leader, a builder, and a bit of an AI coding obsessive, trying to make AI work better in product teams. I write a Substack called Focus Over Features and decided to try my hand at adding a video component to that. My agentic coding flow probably feels a lot like yours. I have an idea for a feature. I usually have a pretty good idea in my head what it should feel like, what it should look like, and I can describe that fairly well to an agent. So I'll save myself some time, dictate that out into a prompt, and ask it to draft up a spec for me. Once it's done with the spec, I'll review it, usually give it some feedback, maybe not review the whole thing. Some of the specs it generates tend to be a little long, but I try to do a good job of catching those issues it has. Sometimes I'll have a second agent do an adversarial review of the spec, and it'll usually catch a couple things that I missed. But once I feel pretty good about the spec, I'll assign it to an agent for coding. The agent will process through that, usually an hour or less, unless it's a pretty meaty feature. But once it's done, it'll kick out a merge request or PR for me, and I'll review that, check if CI passes. Usually the tests are green. Everything looks good from a code review perspective. So I'll boot up a quick session locally to UAT what it built. And that's where things usually get off the rails. It will build exactly what I asked it to build, but a lot of times it just doesn't feel quite right. So if I had an idea for a feature, I usually had a flow in my mind and I tried to explain what that flow should be. But what it ends up building doesn't always line up with my expectations. And sometimes it gets it so wrong that it's faster for me to throw that entire branch away and update the spec with a little more detail and have it start over again. The couple of times I've tried to navigate through changes to the code, maybe try to get it back on track to where it should have been, I just end up wasting more time. The coding part is so much faster now, it's almost easier to throw the whole thing away and start from scratch. But if I just spent more time upfront with the spec, maybe I wouldn't have to do all the rework at the end. AI agents are so fast at coding that they're usually able to code things a lot faster than I can actually get product decisions made in front of them. I spend most of my time trying to think through what would improve the product, what would help my users, what would bring more value to the platform. But all the time I spend on that ends up being 10 times what an agent takes to code it up. So if the agents are coding really fast and I can't stay ahead of them, how do I track all that? And don't get me started on running multiple agents. Everyone talks about running 10 sessions and 10 agents. I don't know where they're building all their product decisions into that equation. For me, what it looks like is typically one or two agents working on a couple features, and the rest of the time I'm spending completely working through all the product decisions I need to make. I don't think there's a lot of software out there that helps with this today. Most of the software is around managing coding agents or tracking the status or the number of tokens you're spending, but not helping you make the decisions in a way that feels natural. We spend all of our time playing whack-a-mole with a bunch of terminal sessions or Claude Code or Codex windows, rather than spending time being strategic about what we're trying to build in our product. I think existing tools fall into 4 different phases for what they're targeted at solving. Phase 1 is chat in the editor. This is Cursor and Copilot. Your workflow hasn't changed much. AI just becomes a faster autocomplete. Phase 2 is agent in the loop. These are tools like Claude Code and Codex, maybe OpenClaw if you're of that variety. The agent's doing the real work for you. You're still individually driving each session. You're the one in the driver's seat still. Phase 3 is agentic by default. Team trusts agents for non-trivial work. These are tools like Augment, Devin, Zencoder, and Windsurf. And then phase 4 is cross-functional. This is where more than engineering, more than the product team are using AI tools in a collaborative way. So, product, customer success, no companies are really here yet. Usually, different teams are using different tools and different workflows, but it's not a collaborative environment. Where you sit on this curve actually determines which tools will actually help. And the further up the curve you go, the less the work looks like generation. The traditional software development lifecycle that we've all used the last several decades doesn't really work well for AI coding practices. If you think about everything that goes into that process, even down to continuous integration and the tests that we run with every pull request, they're not really a good fit for most agents. In most code bases, those CI tests can take 20 or 30 minutes, and an agent codes up something in such a short period of time, that CI starts to become a bottleneck that the agent is waiting for. So, in most code bases, you need to figure out a way to get the CI suite smaller or more optimized, or you need to start rethinking through really what you're testing and what you want an agent to focus on. Maybe smaller point-based CI tests around specific solution areas where the agent can kick those off just to test the parts of the system that it's working on, or a larger smoke test that hits all the major areas versus all the nuanced tests you have within the platform. CI is just one area that we need to look at as far as AI agentic coding flows are concerned, because the whole process can really tie up and drain the efficiency that we're looking at getting when we embrace agentic coding workflows. So if you spent the better part of the last few months focusing on increasing your efficiency with AI agents to produce more code, you're probably pretty efficient at that now. But how much time have you spent getting more efficient at the other side of the equation? How quickly are you making good product decisions, or are you just accepting whatever the agent suggests and accepting that's good enough for now? How much rework are you doing of code that's coming out of your AI agent? And how much are you getting back that's actually hitting the mark? I think there's more we can do here, and I think there's better tooling that can be built to help with this. If you want to follow along with some of my more deep discussions about it, subscribe at my Substack, Focus Over Features, and we'll work through this together.